It's going good, man. Where'd you get that hat for one?
I'm connected.
Yeah, you know a guy who knows a guy?
Yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy. One of my former wrestlers, good friend of mine, lives out here in Idaho. We moved the same time. Andy Copeland, he wrestled. He was a Graco guy, was on the national teams back in the 90s, back when Heath Sims, Dan Henderson, Marco Sanchez, and those guys were competing. But he's an alumni of Humboldt State, and they just had a fundraiser golf tournament. So he hooked me up. So yeah, it's a nice hat. They had a pretty good showing there.
That's
So
pretty cool. I feel like so golf tournaments. You said it was a golf tournament, right?
it was a fundraiser, and they had a golf tournament with the guys and
Yeah.
dinner and etc. and some other things they had done during the weekend.
Those take a lot of like logistical stuff that you kind of have to put together. There's like a lot of little things, but I think for people that have a really good system in place and have a lot of support, I think most golf tournaments do pretty well as a
No, they
fundraiser.
do. It always helps when you have someone that's a golfer that knows the golf scene and how to work the ins and outs of the tournament and organize. But you're absolutely correct. We do it with our Hall of Fame out here in Idaho. They normally have a golf outing before the award ceremonies and for the guys joining the Hall of Fame. So, but no, it went good. But yeah, I got this hat. It was pretty cool.
They had a really good season this last year.
Yeah, I know they were looking for a coach as we were talking to Lenny, and they brought Lenny in, and he brought his brother in, Jim Zaletsky, and they knew they would really get the program off the ground and going, and they're recruiting. I see all the time on Instagram they're recruiting a lot of kids, and they're getting a few hammers. So we'll see. And I think they're getting it off the ground. It's really great to have another Division II program up north.
Yeah, I think the more wrestling programs we have, the better. And I feel like a lot of times when we talk, we've been talking about how NIL and transfer portal and revenue sharing, and there's not a lot of growth of Division I programs, but you see a lot of growth when it comes to Division II and Division III, and I think Humboldt, is kind of a testament to that. I know this past year they beat San Francisco State in a dual meet, and I think that's
Mhm.
that's a testament to how much they've grown. And I know they had a few Division I guys drop back or transfer to Humboldt. I know there was a
Mhm.
guy from Oregon State who transferred over there, and there's probably a few
Mhm.
other guys that probably could have gone Division I, but instead are going to go to Humboldt. And I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of just I'd say just Californians in general, but not just Californians, but people all from the northwestern part of the United States.
No, I think it's great. Opportunity's great. I mean, it's been a little while since we've done the last podcast, but I was just sitting there thinking about the state of wrestling. You and I have talked about it. If May of 2025, I mean, this year, if you look at the state of wrestling in the United States, I think the total high school participation rate was around 356,000 nationwide, whereas around 80% of it, 82% of it was in the boys, but the girls are exponentially growing. I think they had up to 64,000 girls participate. I mean, you look at the talent at the high school level. I mean, Bo Bassett's in the semis. I don't know if he won his semis at that World Trials. You got PJ Duke, the four-time New York State champion. He just beat two NCAA champions, beat the
Yeah.
Nebraska kid, and then he just beat Ridge Lovett, who was, I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, the last time I've heard, I mean, we know Kerry Collette was great coming up, and then I remember Welch in high school, Jason Welch, San Francisco State coach in high school. He went placed at the Midland. So we've had good high school guys do it. I mean, Dave Schultz was the last guy I think back when he was a senior in high school, beat an Iowa Hawkeye who was an NCAA champion his senior year in high school. I don't know if anyone else has done that. Um, but the whip beat two guys, that just tells you the state of wrestling at the prep level. I mean, we're looking at women's growth. I mean, I saw Modesto JC is going to add women's wrestling, so I think that brings it up to 16 or 17 uh, programs in California for the girls.
Yeah.
You got this real American freestyle, Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. I don't know. I mean, they've tried stuff like this before, but these guys are professional entertainers. We'll see how that goes. And then like you said, we have this NCAA Division One. What's the state? We've been dealing with Title IX since what, 1972, 73, and now we got this transfer portal, and then a lot of people are going to start hearing this revenue sharing. And I looking at the portal, transfer portal, what we've seen the last year or two, I mean, it's become the wild, wild west in the Division One. And I think we have to get control of this, in my opinion, or we're gonna have some problems.
Yeah, I just don't know where it kind of starts. I think on the one hand, even though all this other stuff is going on and wrestling is very much evolved into more of a business than maybe it has been, and it's trending that way. But the
Mhm.
quality of wrestling in the United States has gone up exponentially, and you see a lot more high school guys the last few years that are going out and they're competing with guys that have already won national titles, and they're still in high school. Like PJ Duke beat Antrell Taylor in a pretty solid match, you know. And yeah, it's freestyle, and maybe it's a little bit different. But at the same time, it's like you see guys getting after it. Bo Bassett's another guy who just beat Bo Bartlett. And that was probably one of the most boring matches I've seen ever. But, you know, at the same time, it's like a win's a win, and it's wrestling. And not to mention Jax Forrest winning the U.S. Open. So you do have a lot of high school guys that are just wrestling really fearless and wrestling at a high level, which is really impressive, and it's good for wrestling. At the same time, I think we're always trying to think, you know, what is happening to just the ordinary wrestler. You know, we're always trying to aspire, I think, to being the best version of ourselves and competing at a high level. But I think there are more opportunities for Division II and Division III schools that we haven't seen, and I think that's awesome at the same time. You know, and I think it's kind of weird. It's like two things are true at the same time. It's like wrestling is trending upward, but I think the way that it's kind of become very much a business, I think is very much scary, because I think wrestling culture is very much traditional. It's honorable. It's doing the right thing in general, right?
Mhm.
And there's, you know, some outliers and stuff, but yeah, it's, I don't know, it's scary. It's uncomfortable. I hope programs don't get dropped, which I think, you know, with the revenue sharing, and I don't think Title IX is necessarily like a safeguard in
Mhm.
that. What I think that means is, you know, if there's a situation where, you know, I'm not saying this is happening, and, you know, God forbid it ever happens, but Cal State Bakersfield, where uh, men's wrestling is a companion sport with women's golf. If something happens where they're like, hey, we're going to prioritize the basketball team or the baseball team, and, you know, we need to cut you guys, it's like, they'll cut both of them. You know, it's not just replacing one with the other. You have to get rid of both, which kind of sucks. But I don't know. It's for sure scary, and I think you know, the way that you said it's like the Wild West. That's kind of where we're at. We're in uncharted territory,
Mhm.
and I think other sports, I actually think it's a lot worse. Um, with you know, some of the transfer portal stuff. I know there was a quarterback that was leaving from Tennessee because he wanted to get paid more, and I think maybe had a bad attitude, or I think was even reaching out to schools before he was officially in the portal to
Mhm.
kind of gauge where he was at for the market. And the Oregon head coach Dan Lanning is probably one of my favorite coaches to study.
Mhm.
Kind of just blasted it like, "Hey, this guy's, you know, reaching out and kind of calling out the situation," which I think we can be competitors, but at the same time, I think you know, being honest about it or transparent about it and not being sneaky. But
Yeah.
um,
I think today's Division One coach, college coach has to be a business-minded person. You got two choices: run away from what's happening now or embrace it and look at the business model, what it's going to take to be successful. I mean, going back to Division Ones, as of now, I believe there's 78 programs. Now, granted, in 1975, as Title IX was starting to take place, proportionality was one of the bigger of the three prongs that affected it. We had 156 programs back now. Now, granted, a large percentage of programs back then never produced an NCAA All American. Um, you know, you look at Cal. You mentioned Cal State Bakersfield, your alma mater. I mean, we got a program that's been around what since 1974 when Joe C was the head coach. I mean, you're talking a program that produced, I believe, 8 Division II national team titles. They had multiple uh, All American, I think up to 40 something All American honors at Division One. And they're the only, and in fact, I believe next year 2026, I believe, is the 30th year since Cal State Bakersfield took third at the NCAs. And
Yeah,
I think,
96 was
yeah,
the last time,
yeah, I was talking
right?
to Rich Bailey, who is an alum, two-time All-American, and he was a coach here, and he lives here in Idaho, up here in Boise. And we were talking about that. And if you look at the state of the NCAs since 1929, when they started the first NCAs, Oklahoma State is dominated. But you look at the power schools. Cal State Bakersfield along is the only West Coast school, along with I think Oregon State did it twice, and I think the last time they were in the top three was in '95. Okay, so you're talking two schools. Now Arizona State is in the West. You know, obviously they won it, and then I think Wyoming's the only other school in 1960 where they were in the top three. So I mean, you just look at that, and then Cal State Bakersfield produced a lot of world medalists, champions. You know, NCHM, you got Stephen Neal, you got Azevedo, you got Questis, you got Joe Gonzalez. I mean, it is a
Jesse
pro.
Reyes.
Jesse Reyes,
Yeah.
and more recently we had an All-American with AJ Ferrari came in. But you got a program. If you look at Cal State Bakersfield, I don't know all the other programs. It's a gem, and I think the community needs to move forward on this and figure out how they're going to navigate through this storm.
Well,
That's,
I think something that when I look at the situation with Cal State Bakersfield, obviously, like you said, it's something that is it's personal. Like it's something that I care deeply about. I wouldn't maybe have had the opportunity to wrestle at Division I level, at least in my head, when I was
mm-hmm,
younger. Without Cal State Bakersfield, and kind of just put me in a really good place to get a really good job out of college. My family loves Bakersfield. I kind of see myself being here for a long time. And, I try to help as much as I can. But I think on the one hand, though, it's like we have to see more community engagement. Like if you go to duels, this last year was probably our best time for duels in a really long time. And that win over Michigan State, and you can kind of say, well, Michigan State, didn't bring some of their guys and are maybe towards the bottom of the barrel when it comes to Big Ten schools, but they're still a Big Ten schools,
mm-hmm,
and that was one of the more exciting, I guess, electric moments that I've gotten to witness in the Accardo Center a really long time. People are on their feet. They're getting really excited. Looking at the team's wrestling with a lot more confidence and energy. And I think, some of it comes from AJ, for sure. I think just bringing eyes on the school a little bit more, I think is
mm-hmm,
fantastic. And it's a big contribution to that. And I think, looking at some of the guys that Smith has been able to recruit, that don't come from California. They're coming
mm-hmm,
from elsewhere. There's a guy that just committed. He's transferring out of Campbell. I think is a great
mm-hmm,
pickup. And I think he's kind of from all over. He wrestled at Wyoming Seminary in
mm-hmm,
high school, and then before that, I think he's actually from Arizona. So kind of all over the place. And I know there's a couple guys from Idaho, and I know there's a guy from Utah.
mm-hmm,
There's a guy from Hawaii that I think
mm-hmm.
has a decent following. So I think it's kind of been shown, hey, you can come here and you can have success. But we just have to continue to build. And obviously, I know I'm not a part of the program in that way, but as somebody that lives in this town, I'm immensely proud of it, and I want to see it, continue to see it grow.
Yeah, and that's what I mean is engaging with the community. There's a rich history there. They just have to be forward thinkers and run it like a business and navigate to this. And in we can talk more about I think Title IX, if like I said, we had 156 programs, 75, and some of the biggest hits were in the 80s and 90s where it lost. So 78, it's been teetering between 75 and 78. I think it went up to 80 a little bit in the last 10, 15 years. We haven't seen a lot of Division One teams drop, but we have seen major increases. You mentioned Division Two. I think there's up to 75. Some NAIA teams have gone up and they've added a few, but NAIA is growing as well, the NAIA. And in JUCO, it's got close to 60 programs. And just the clubs alone, I think there's like 150 NCWA programs. So
Yeah.
we just count it's over 500 schools in the country where you got opportunities, but to get into Division One, only 1% out of high school of that large number even qualify for the Division One. I think it's about the same. I think a total of 5% if you add up all the divisions NAIA. So it's limited, but you know, Title IX. It's good that we have women's wrestling because now we got it. They're both grown and we can help each other grow. I know women's wrestling Division One's going to grow. The NAIA is a different business model, how they run, kids going to school and money. But when we're looking, I think the new thing is you mentioned the transfer portal. How is it where the power schools have a lot of money, a lot of investment? A school like Little Rock produces two NCAA All Americans. They've only been around
Yeah.
4 years, and then now they're going to Iowa. How do you build a tradition? How do you help in recruiting when it becomes it's the perception is those are farm teams for the Big Ten schools, those top schools. How are we going to survive there and grow the sport if you can? I know there's repercussions if you go into the transfer portal, like you can possibly lose a scholarship if you go in there. But it's not like the old days. I think the old days, if you transferred, I think you had to be released, correct?
Yeah, yeah, you had to get a release, and normally that would come from your AD,
Mm-hmm.
and I think your head coach at the time. So like if it was something to where, um, you know, this actually happened to us when Mendoza left and Manny Rivera came in. A
Mm-hmm.
guy who was actually my roommate wanted to follow Mendoza. And
Mm-hmm.
part of it was because Boise State was in our conference. That's like another added element where they normally don't allow that. But he was able to get a full release from the athletic director as well as Manny, who released him to Boise State. And I think in those situations, where we're talking about with Little Rock, obviously it's a lot of success, but it's like you said, if we're gonna go business mode, then it is about like what's the purpose of the business is to make money generally, right? And
Profit.
these young guys that are in there, um, um, I'm blanking on his name right now, Nasir Bailey and the guy who was at Oklahoma State before. I'm forgetting
Mm-hmm.
his name, but both those guys leave, and it's like, yeah, that sucks. But I don't think I hope it doesn't mess with Little Rock's momentum too much because I think they are building something really awesome. And those guys did stay. This year,
Mm-hmm.
Bailey All American and stayed for the next year. And I know Stephen Lill is the same thing. He stayed. He came back. And I think a lot of that stuff, a lot of the conversations, I think start at NCAA's because it's like this big meeting ground and everybody's hanging out. And I don't think it's necessarily the coaches that are doing it directly that are saying, hey, enter the portal. But I think it's, the fan base. I think it's intermediaries. And I think that happens. What I want to know, though, is that's all speculation. Like people say that. Where are the receipts? Like where are the text messages? Like there's no leaked emails, there's no leaked text or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if all this stuff is happening and that's kind of what everybody's saying, I don't know. I would feel like somebody would leak something at some point.
Yeah, something. I mean, you're looking at. I mean, you look at some fifth year seniors because of COVID. They're already graduating. They got one more year eligibility. They're going to Oklahoma State or they're going to Iowa for 1 year and they're getting paid. You can see that. But some school. I mean, sometimes you go to school and it's not a fit for you and you want to leave, right? But they
Yeah.
gotta put some controls on it. I mean, college used to be a place you went there to learn and educate and get the athletic experience. Now it's become a business and it's not really about wrestling. All these NIL stuff it's bigger in football, it's bigger in basketball. I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing quarterbacks that are getting $1 million. I mean, it's like a farm system for the professional. They're using the models, I believe, of the NBA and the professional. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's become a
Well,
business.
they have GMs. Programs have
Yeah.
GMs now, you
Yeah.
know. I think it's, I
I
I'm
mean,
I'm more of the mind that if we are gonna be if we're gonna say it's a business and I'm Rocco Welsh or I'm trying to think of somebody else like Richard Figueroa and
mhm,
maybe I'm not having the kind of success or I don't feel valued or whatever. I mean, it's the magic of the market. Like
mhm,
these guys, they're gonna go where they're gonna get the value. And there's a guy for CSUB that was a national qualifier this last year. He entered the portal, and it's one of those things where I was talking to him, and I actually talked to Coach Smith about it. And the whole thing is like, he's not even planning on leaving. He's just trying to go see what his value is out there, and not planning on leaving,
It's
but
free
it's,
market capitalism.
yeah, I mean, that's what it is. And it's like, well, how do you beat that? And I think either become one yourself, and if you don't have the means to do that, you have to work even harder on building relationships. Like, I think one of my favorite programs to look at is University of Northern Iowa. I love Doug Schwab.
Doing a
I'm a
great job.
big fan of Lee Roper. But then it goes back to, well, if we're playing chess, it's not just about recruiting athletes. It's about recruiting coaches. And if you have these means, go out and get the best coaches. Now, Lee
Mhm,
Roper, guess where he's at right now? He's at Oklahoma State. Um,
mhm,
and I think if you look at wrestling, if you don't really know who Lee Roper is, like, Lee Roper is very
mhm,
much like a Casey Cunningham. Like, he's maybe a little bit unheralded at certain points. I'm not even sure if Lee Roper was a national qualifier. I want to
mhm,
say he was a 3 or 4 year starter at App State.
mhm,
Worked really hard at the club level, Compound Wrestling Club in Georgia, and man, just is kind of very much a self-made man and got after it.
mhm.
And it's pretty cool to see him kind of rise through the coaching ranks, just because he loves wrestling. He wanted to be good at it. Like, you listen to him talk in interviews and podcasts, and he's like, I want to be the best coach ever. And I don't think he says that in an arrogant way. I think he works really hard. And I think, if you are somebody who maybe comes from a smaller program, maybe you're from, Ryder, CSUB or Cal Poly, or, wherever, get really good. And then maybe you don't have to worry about it as much. Like, Parker Keckison was probably offered a lot of money. I'm sure, if he would have entered the portal, but he didn't,
Mhm.
as he cared about the relationships. He cared about his relationship with Lee Roper. He cared about his relationship with Doug Schwab. He missed the graduation ceremony for
I saw
UNI,
that.
and the school president came to the wrestler group in full regalia and did the whole
Mhm.
ceremony for him. Like, you can't, like, how many schools are going to do that?
Not many.
Like,
No,
how
no,
awesome is that?
no, it's not. It is business. It is coaching, and it's tradition. I mean, you got Oklahoma State, Iowa. They got, I mean, the community. You've been to the NCAAs, right? You've seen it.
Never been, never
Oh,
qualified,
oh,
never gone.
dude, you go to Iowa City, you go to, I mean, there, you go to a restaurant, they eat, sleep, breathe wrestling. They know it. I mean, the community knows. So you got a rich history, a lot of alumni, a lot of people back in the program that sort of helps propel and that support system there. And that's what I was talking about earlier. But I mean, you look at Oklahoma State, that's a big tradition. They just had I saw a posting for it's a business manager to help the wrestling coach manage, the business side of the program. And one of the preferred qualifications, NIL knowledge is preferred, right? So they need to know that.
Yeah.
And that being said, we say the business side of it, budgets are budgets, but with the revenue sharing, they whatever money is made in the sporting school can be distributed. Can you explain that to me a little bit more? What do you know about revenue sharing?
Um, well, I think, from based on what I know, and I'm not an expert
Yeah.
about it, the concept of revenue sharing is, there's essentially a big pot. And
Hmm.
I think how that pot gets divvied up is based on need.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not entirely sure about that.
Yeah.
But the way that I believe that works is the big contributors are still going to get, I want to say, the biggest chunk of it. And then there's a secondary element to it that comes for the athletes. Like, the athletes get a piece of that revenue as well. So some of it goes to the athletes. So when you start
Hmm.
thinking about that, it's like, okay, what does that really change from how much programs are really bringing in?
Hmm.
Maybe it brings a little bit more because there's more incentive to, or more need or drive to. But at the same time, that pot gets divvied up to the sense where, if I'm a pretty good basketball player, and I don't know the exact reasons for why that happens, but maybe I'm getting a piece of what basketball brings in, and I'm getting it in the form of a paycheck. I'm essentially kind of almost like a paid employee. I don't know if that's taxable. I know for NIL it is taxed. Like,
Hmm.
you do have to check with state and federal tax. Like, you have to file a tax return on that. And I think maybe that's something that people aren't super aware of.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things where it kind of pulls away from that pot a little bit more. So if we're trying to say, hey, we're going to engage in, I think schools can opt in or opt out of it. But if you opt in it, it puts a roster cap, and then it also splits up some of that pot. Exactly how it
So
gets splits up, I'm not again an
so
expert on it, but
say I get on the phone and I'm a multi-billionaire and I said, "Hey, Brian, I'm a former wrestler. I've been watching your program. I want to donate, you know, you know, $3 million to the wrestling program." If that is a donation in a program, would that money go into that pot that can be revenue shared to other sports, or is it, how?
well, so there's collectives. So it's
Okay.
essentially the NIL process, and that's
Hmm.
separate from the just the general funding that comes from the school. So
Okay.
if you're willing to drop, $3 million, I'm not sure if you send it to the general school fund, if it goes
Hmm.
into that pot that schools
Hmm.
split up. I'm not sure if that's how that works.
Yeah.
But I know for the NIL collective thing, normally from again, this is all hearsay. I don't actually know
Yeah.
for certain. But it might be like, hey, we want to get this recruit. He's in the portal, we're gonna have to pay him, uh, 50, $60,000, or and that's just that's not a huge number, but maybe he's a national qualifier and we want
Hmm.
him. We're out of our scholarship fund, or we're just not gonna be able to accommodate him that way. We're gonna pay him through NIL, and basically he's gonna get a check, and that's what's gonna cover his tuition and his room and board and books and all that stuff. Um, I feel like that's more or less how that goes down. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
I.
not sure exactly the other way. I don't think CCB is opting into the revenue sharing. I could be wrong in that as well.
Mhm.
But the way they have their scholarship set up is, I think, is different. There's like different accounts that different boosters have kind of established, and they kind of come um, kind of through different means like that.
Yeah. No, because with all these changes too, you're the coach, you're the head coach, and you got the business side, but then you got the recruiting side too. Uh, High school kids today are not no longer competing with other high school kids. They're competing with guys in the portal. I mean,
Yeah, and the
how
recruiting
many
process.
kids are being affected that may go to Oklahoma State, but they brought into the portal, a two-time NCAA champion. And it's making the competition to make that program and start is getting more and more difficult. I think one
Yeah.
thing they should go back to, because I know COVID created COVID, we had the Olympic year, we had all these different things where people took a COVID year and an Olympic year and they had up to 7 seasons at the NCAs. I really think they need to cap it down to 4 with one red shirt. I really think we need to go back to that.
Where you get 4 years of competition, but you can spread it out over five and
Yeah,
have
I
one be a
know
red
now
shirt.
with I think if you're in JUCO or like the California Community College, I don't think those 2 years count.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think that includes national JUCO as well. You can go the
Yeah,
JUCO route,
yeah.
which again, kind of just talking more locally in Bakersfield. Some of our guys that want to wrestle at the next level, it's kind of like, we can kind of commit to university right now, and maybe we're going to an NAI or a Division II, and that's great. But it almost makes more sense. Like, I could save money in the long run and try wrestling at Bakersfield College first, and kind of develop a little bit more, stay close to home, stay close to the high school program, and help. And we've had a couple guys the last few years do that, and some of them, they do a year and they're like, like, I don't really want to wrestle in college that bad. They start working.
Hmm.
While others are like, like, let's go into it, and let's keep getting better. And then if it doesn't hurt against my eligibility, I can transfer out, and that way I already have collegiate wrestling experience. And kind of what you mentioned earlier, if I'm a coach and I'm going to pay money for somebody, it's kind of like picking somebody up on the free agent list. It's
Hmm.
like, do I want to draft a rookie for this position, or do I want to go into free agency where they've kind of already done college a little bit. They know kind of how to be independent. They know how it works a
Hmm.
little bit. And that's always a struggle that I feel like happens a lot with true freshmen
Hmm.
is, are they ready for the college life? Are they ready for academics? Are they ready to balance the academics, with the social life, and everything that comes with the college experience. And I think if you can get somebody that's a little bit older, yeah, you don't have them as long either. So if you're paying them something, it's only a short term commitment. It's not a 4 or 5 year commitment. So
Yeah. No, it's a new dynamic. I mean, right here in Idaho, Boise State was a great program. They were a top 10 NCAA team. They produced, NCAA champions. They produced multiple All-Americans through the years. I know when Chris Owens, who's our national Idaho coach, he was an assistant coach there. I knew during his tenure there, when he was helping coach there, they were producing, Adam Hall and tons of guys that were doing really well. They dropped the program for some reasons that I don't really want to talk about. We can go on for days. But they lost a gem there. And there's been talk of people wanting to, maybe we should try, trying to bring that program back. In my opinion, I think it would be better to bring an NAIA program in Idaho. We got some areas here because if you look at the landscape of wrestling this past year, Idaho produced the most All-Americans in NAIA college in the history. They had like 6 kids from Idaho placed at the NAIA Nationals. So we have a lot of kids. I really think we can develop, and I think it would be easier to run that program than try to bring a Division I because it's going to be much more difficult today than it was 30 years ago to stay at that top with all this new business dynamics. Adds a
well,
big.
how many schools in Idaho are Division 1? I'm pretty sure just Boise State, right? Like, I'm not just saying just
I
wrestling.
think
I'm saying
Idaho
sports
State
general.
may be. I'm not sure about
Oh
Idaho
yeah,
State.
yeah, yeah. Idaho, yeah.
Up in Pocatello. I mean, for other sports, I'm not University of Idaho. They may be Division I, but they're not up there with the big schools. I'd have to look that up because I
So
don't really.
it says Boise State, University of Idaho, and Idaho
Yeah,
State.
yeah, those three. NAIA, we have the College of Idaho here, close to where I'm here in the Treasure Valley. They have like 12 sports. They're already in a Cascade Conference. It would be the most. I mean, I've heard through the circles that they're at the school, they're talking about possibly bringing men's and women's wrestling there. Possibly it's still in the talking stage, but I think that would be really great for the sport. And then up north, we have a JUCO program, Northern Idaho College, and they're a top 5 or 10 program in JUCO. They do a great job up there, Coach Booth and his crew. So, but yeah, I don't know if bringing a Division I program here would work. I don't know. I'd like
Well,
to be
I think
optimistic.
I mean, it's kind of like it sounds good, but it's like people have to either crowdsource for it and
Hmm.
really just get after it, and it starts with a club, and then
Hmm.
building the money and the resources and all that stuff for it, finding coaches, and then having like an endowment or something that's going to set up so it's going to continue to be
Hmm.
funded in the future. So you have to do all that, or some random dude that just has a lot of money just is like, boom, I got you, and sets that up. But how often does that happen?
Not very often, because I know the Boise State the football program, they're trying to enhance the stadium. They're trying to build it. I mean, they had
Yeah.
one of their running fullbacks is one of the best in the country. They were recruiting. I think he's going to the Raiders. I think I'm not sure what program he's going to. I mean, so they're really trying to hype and build that program. I know a lot of money and time's going to. I would hope the Boise State program can come back. I'm not saying it never will, but it's not just a matter of getting there and have funding to run the program. It's going to be a bigger task for long term to be able to produce a program that can compete.
Well, the fact that it was already there, I mean, I think makes it more open to that.
Hmm.
It's not like starting it from scratch.
Yeah,
But and also the president, I think that got that kind of initiated getting rid of wrestling is gone. Like he's not there anymore because I think it was
yeah.
like we're gonna get rid of wrestling. We're gonna invest heavily in a baseball team, and that kind of ended up falling through. But the hope, yeah, I mean, we hope,
My
but I think
sources are telling me the current administration or athletic administration, they're not interested in it right now.
yeah,
So never
yeah.
say never. Never say
No,
never.
no. I mean, look at what happened with Fresno State. They brought it back. It was
Mhm.
around for I think 2 or 3 years, and then poof, gone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's incredible. I mean, it's just the state of wrestling. We're doing so great on one end, And even at the collegiate, even though we have 78 programs, the level of competition that we see, the skill set, I mean, it's always been great, but it's just phenomenal. And I think we're doing a better job promoting the sport. I mean,
Absolutely.
having Instagram, we don't have to depend on the major news outlets or the sports stations to promote wrestling. We got like this, we got a podcast. I've been writing and promoting for 30 years. You got Instagram. There's just so many things that we can take control of to promote our program. I mean, what's that program? It's an NAI program down in LA Whitfield College, their NAIA program. It's in California. And
Vanguard,
no, it's not Vanguard. I think it's like,
Westcliff.
yeah, West Cliff. You
Yeah.
seeing that? I'm seeing them all over Instagram. They're promoting, hey, we're trying to build our program. That's what it takes. And that leads me to the NIL. If you are a coach, are you looking for that wrestler not only is good, but with that, what if you have a kid he's not a bad wrestler, has a lot of potential, but he has a good NIL investment that can benefit the program.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
do you
good
look?
good social media,
Yeah.
profile. And I think that's another way. Like, it's kind of like back in the day, when I was going through the process, I was like, all right, I might not be as good of a wrestler, but I'm a good student.
Hmm.
I volunteer and I do a bunch of other things. I'm well rounded. Like I was in musicals and I was captain of the football team and student government, all that stuff, right? So I did all. I was well rounded, and I wanted to make myself as recruitable as possible. Where it's like you don't have to worry about me. Like I'm going to add so many other things to your program. And I think another add to that now is social media, and it's kind of like
Hmm.
a balancing act because I wouldn't want to necessarily go out and get somebody that I'm not going to recruit you because of your social media. Like I'm going
That's
to
right.
recruit you because you're a good wrestler, or
Hmm.
you can wrestle at this level. If you have a really good social media, and I don't think you can wrestle, at this level, I'm not going to recruit you.
But you can have a
But
mixture.
yeah, it can add to it. Like
Hmm.
if let's say you take me back then, where it's like I'm probably a Division II guy, but and I'm flip it on the other end. I'm a head coach, and I'm looking at Brian, and it's like, okay, well, maybe he's not as good, but am I willing to give up a roster spot for him?
Hmm.
Well, he's a good student. He has all the other things, but he has like a podcast, so he does all these other things. All right, I'll entertain it, but I wouldn't want that to be a distraction. If he's coming in
Yes.
here and saying, I'm going to do all this social media stuff, and that takes precedence before his wrestling, like that, I almost think that would hurt you. Like I'm not sure I would want to recruit a guy
Or it
that
could it,
puts
it
more
could
value
hurt
on
you
that than
depending on what you're promoting, right?
yeah,
There,
yeah.
there's got to be limits. What was the kid at Iowa? Spencer Lee. I think he had some clothing wear. So I can't remember. Um,
He had a
who had a
Rudis deal, I
shoe?
know.
Yeah, Rudis deal. They have those things. Those are all legit businesses. Some people come in, they have that Ric Flair type of persona where they really they're very good at promoting themselves and their products or something like that. It's just part of the equation. But yeah, you're correct. You want a good balance. And that brings me to the portal. I think another, this is just my opinion. We go to college to get educated and try to get a degree. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but if a kid's in his fifth year and he's in a portal, but he doesn't have enough units to graduate, I think there should be, you have to have so many units in college to be able to transfer, like showing that you're trying to get your degree. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
supposed to go to college to get a degree and learn. We're not there to make. We making money. You understand? You know where I'm going with this, right?
I know where you're going. I understand what you're saying, but not everybody agrees with that.
I
Like
know
I
that.
just listened to it was funny. It was Miguel Estrada.
Hmm.
Kale Sonnen is visiting their room, and he was talking about, and he's actually a really good student. Like I actually had him in class when he was in high
Hmm.
school, but he was talking about how when he's done, he wants to go fight. And like,
Hmm.
he has his red shirt still. He has 3 years of competition eligibility. But he's like, if he had his way, he would just do his 3 years and then go right into fighting. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm in school and I'm doing well in school so that I can wrestle. And to be entirely honest, I was kind of the same way, Al. Like
Hmm.
the whole reason I was doing well in high school wasn't because I necessarily cared about my grades in that sense. I wasn't forward thinking like that. I was more like, I want to go to college and wrestle. And then once I got into college, it's like, I'm here to wrestle. Like if I wanted to go somewhere else, and academics was my priority, um, mean, I don't know, it wouldn't matter necessarily where I went as long as it was affordable and I got the
Yeah.
education. But it's like
But
you're going to these Division I programs, you're a student athlete, you're both. It's not
yeah, you're
one or
both.
the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I mean, not everyone gets their degree. Not everyone, but if you're in your fifth year and you even haven't even taken a basic history class, there's something wrong. I mean, I don't know how deep it goes. I'm sure because what is it? There's the APR score or something like that. Schools have to have certain percentile what is that? There's like,
I'm not sure how that works.
yeah,
But I mean, if you look at the portal right now, there's a lot of grad transfers. I'd see, I don't know,
yeah,
maybe a fifth or a sixth of the guys that are transferring already graduated. They already got a bachelor's degree. Um, but some of them are, I don't want to hate on people's majors now, but if you're getting like a psychology degree or something like that, it's like, are you really going to be, a psychologist? Because, I mean, what are you going to do with a psychology degree? You're going to get into counseling? And that's going to take another. I mean, it's going to take another degree. Are you going
yeah.
to get your master's? And then if you get your master's, you might be a social worker or something like that. And then you got to get your doctor if you want to keep moving up. I don't know.
Psychiatry. Yeah,
It's kind of like it's like a history thing. It's like I knew all along I was going to be a history teacher.
yeah,
But you know, I know guys that yeah, I'm not going to say who, but
yeah.
are taking like one guy I knew actually they actually got rid of the degree, but it was PE teacher. It was basically a kinesiology degree, but it was for teaching physical education. So it was kind of a small group that was in it, but basically what they were doing is most of their classes were learning different games and then coming up with like their assignments or their papers were like, how do you teach this to high schoolers or to elementary and middle schoolers? It's
Just
like
have fun.
yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
again, I don't want to come off like I'm judging people. Like you can go and
No.
if they offer it, obviously there's a market for it. But a lot of times you see this with athletes, they're going because they're there for their sport.
Yeah.
And some of them take it more serious than others. And I think, if we're talking about it's a business, you're making a business decision. If
that
you're
it's
prioritizing your sport over your life after or your professional um, career, it's like, okay, that's your choice. You better
Yeah.
be right.
I mean, you look at Stanford athletes, I think they're under a different academic sports system than a lot of colleges. I mean,
Cornell's a good example too.
yeah, you
Cornell's
know,
a good example.
not everyone's going to get a doctorate, PhD in physics and everything. It's just my point is, you know, you got to do school. You got to do so. You're there for. It is a business now, and not everyone's there going to get a degree. I mean, a lot of people get degrees, and 5 years later, they're working in a job that doesn't require a degree. It's an
Yeah.
experience. It's a growth. I learned a lot in school, a lot that I never used, but I learned more in wrestling than I did in school about life lessons. To be honest with you, so having that mixture there is really important. Um, you try to encourage kids to if they're going to go to college, try to get that experience both academically and it doesn't mean the degree you're going to get, you're going to be, doing that for the rest of your life because things do change. And sometimes you make more money in other areas and you grow and you develop. But no, it's just interesting. I just think the portal and all that has to have more controls in it. I think people are looking at that. They're looking at NIL, how it's working, but I just think we have to get it reined in. And I
I just
think
don't know how you do that. Like it feels like there's no there is rules. Like you can't do pay for performance. Like
Mhm.
I can't say, hey Al, I'm gonna give you 50 grand. But your contract says if you end up being an all-American, I'm gonna give you another 50. And if you end up being a national champion, I'm gonna give you 100. You can't say that in your NIL deal. Like there are some rules. Now whether that's more of like a handshake saying, hey, I'll do that. I mean, that's completely different. And I'm sure that happens. And I've heard that it happens, but none of it is like actually in ink on a contract. So like I could even say that out, and then maybe you actually do it, and I'm like, sorry, we don't have it, or no, we can't do that. But then you
So
just leave again. Then you just go somewhere else. And you know
yeah,
what? Hey, you're an All American, you're a national champ. Go get paid somewhere else.
yeah, no, it's just a different system. I'm not saying it's all bad. it's just changing the landscape and where we heading in the sport. Because on the freestyle scene, development from the cadets all the way up to international, we are at the best we've been in many, many, many years. I mean, some of the best wrestling I've ever seen. Um, college, we have some of the best Division I wrestlers I've ever seen. Division II, all that's getting good. But I would just hate to see programs getting dropped because they can't survive in this system. And it's like, what do we have to do to survive in this system? Right.
Yeah.
Um, it's a vast majority of schools don't produce what it's almost like the California State Tournament. There's 900 high schools, but how many have not placed at the state tournament in 40 years? A lot,
There's a lot.
a lot,
Um, But I
Um,
mean, if we're talking about high school, and obviously there's like I'll kind of just say in Bakersfield, there's two power high schools. Like there's the
mhm,
perennial power, which is Bakersfield High School. They have three full mats. It looks better
mhm,
than their wrestling room is probably on par with a lot of Division I school. Like if I'm being honest, it's probably on par with a lot of Division I schools. It's
mhm,
nice. They got a really nice wrestling room, and they have the history. But on the other side of town, you have Frontier and Frontier High School. I mean, we're kind of like the still the new kid on the block. We're coming up on
mhm,
20 years since our school was founded, and the way that we compete is like we just have to do more. Like we just have to
mhm,
do more. Like we have to. We made a league for the elementary and middle schools a couple years ago, and now we're entering year 3. And it's like there was no wrestling through the elementary and middle schools. It's all through club.
mhm,
There's no like single unified school district from elementary through high school. It's the high school has one, and then there's like a bunch of middle school and elementary districts. So that's one thing. And then we have to use commercial property where we have all these mats laid down because we can't like our wrestling room at the high school is literally a mat and like a couple side sections. That's
mhm.
it, and you can't you can fit 25 people in there maybe very uncomfortably, and these are high school kids. So it's like we just have to do more. We have to raise more money. And we have to go out and actively look for the best coaches we can get, and then put in the time. And it's
Yeah,
like, it's just, I mean,
yeah,
do you think some of these high schoolers that have all this linear alignment, um, they have to do that many hours into it? Probably not. But
yeah,
I'll tell you this, the best coaches, they do. They do in some aspect. They do put in
yeah,
a lot of time, whether that's the fundraising, whether that's scheduling practices, whether that's getting extra workouts, and or just maybe they have the system in place where they can be a little bit more hands off. But
yeah,
if we take that and apply it to the college level, you just have to do more. And that's kind of the
yeah,
brutal,
yeah,
honest truth. It's like you just
yeah,
have to do more. Like you
yeah.
look at, Adam Hall in Utah Valley. Great place. We drove through there on the way up to Western Regionals. It's awesome.
Mhm.
Our kids checked out the campus. Um, and they have an All-American, this last year with
Barraclaw.
Bear Claw. And they have a lot of other guys that I think are pretty tough. And Bear Claw just beat I actually want to see. He lost to David Carr 6-3 in the
Ooh.
semis just now. So yeah, the
Mhm.
semis are going on right now as we're recording, but um, they have momentum, But I guarantee you, like Hall has to get after it. Like
Oh, he
I'm sure there's
does.
not a lot of downtime.
No, he
You
has a
got to
business plan.
yeah, you got to build relationships. You got to fundraise. You got to talk to alumni. You got to still recruit and you still got to develop. Like those are still the two most, important things: recruiting,
Yeah.
fundraising, and developing. But all these other things have to come into play. And I guarantee you, now he has his staff. But I remember when we talked to him on the podcast, he was, I think, staying in somebody's basement or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And not even with his family. And he has to get after it right now. And I guarantee you, if at that stage, if he chose to not do something, it just wouldn't get done,
Oh,
right?
I agree.
So it's
No,
like
I
that's there's not. I mean, that's kind of the simple,
yeah.
honest truth is you just have to get after it.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm saying these things, I'm not saying it in the sense I believe everyone needs to be a champion because I don't. I don't believe it needs to be an equal playing field. No, we equally have the opportunity to excel. It's just the nature of it. There's those that put in all the time and build it and effort and thing, and there's those that are waiting for someone else to do it for them. So not everyone's going to be up at the top tier. I was taught this way growing up. My dad told me, no one owes you anything. You got to earn it. You got to get out there and
Yeah.
hustle. And that's why wrestling, I gravitated to that. Um, some of the best coaches, they put in a lot of time. Like you said, the best programs are putting in the freestyle Greco. They're putting the time in. They're working with others. I mean, you mentioned Adam Hall. I seen his business plan. He is working. He knows what it takes. He's been there. And he left North Carolina and came out here and he put his nose to the grindstone, like you said, from day one. And I think they're going to continue to get stronger, but but he's willing to put the time in the effort. He's not afraid to work hard. And that's really,
Not everybody's down for that, man. Not
and
everybody's down to that.
that's why some teams are at the top and some teams, don't go. And that's, you can't, to be a Division I coach or a college coach or even anything, you have to, if you want to be successful, you got to go out there and work. And there's some that aren't getting the results. They're working hard. It's just, it takes time. It takes time to do it. And no, I think this is just new stuff happening. It's a new, we almost forgot about Title IX. I don't even know if Title IX even affects it as much because of for at least for I think it's been almost 50 something years. So I think it's pretty much in check now. We're used to that, but this other stuff's going to take some time for programs to get used to the portal, get used to this. I still think the portal needs probably a little bit more restrictions, make it a little bit more difficult just to get up and move around. I don't know what that is. I'd have to see all the rules and everything before I can
Yeah,
comment
I
on
mean,
that.
maybe putting a cap on it, like maybe you get to leave once, unless you graduate,
Mhm.
or something. I don't know, something like that.
Something like that. Just a little bit more transparency of what's going on, and just don't make it that easy to be able to just get up and go. Because it used to be you had to be released, you had to go in there.
Yeah.
Even if you go in the portal now, you can lose your scholarship. They may not have been. I mean, you can lose your chance coming back, right? I mean, there's no guarantee.
I'm not sure how that works per se.
Yeah.
Because I know when you enter the portal, it's kind of like anybody can recruit you,
Hmm.
and you can still come back. And there's also like a deadline, which I
Hmm.
think it might have been like May 6th. Like there's a window. I think it happens right after NCAA's, and it goes up until I think this year was May 6th, and then
Hmm.
you can't enter the portal after that. So when you just have to get into the portal before that date, and if you're in it,
Yeah.
you can obviously stay in it
Hmm.
until school starts, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're at Frontier, right?
yeah, Frontier High
Now,
School.
didn't you have a guy? Isn't one of your guys at Iowa right now?
Yeah, that's Miguel
Miguel is
Estrada.
starting now. Yeah, is he going to start next year? You think? You think he has a good shot at starting?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's I think he's for one, he's a really good human being, and
Hmm.
immensely proud that I just got to be a small part of his journey. And it's cool that he's a Frontier alum. But I think with the Iowa program, I think, and that's part of the reason why he wanted to go there is just there's a plethora of really good guys that he can wrestle. Like
Hmm.
he competed at 49s and 57s. He started in some duels at 57s.
Hmm.
He's working out with Caliendo. He
Hmm.
was working out with Parco and Teamer and those guys, Voinovich, and now, those two Little Rock guys that just transferred. I mean, I don't know. He's got a lot of his skill set. I think he has he's very tough, very good hand fighter, very physical, um, really
Hmm.
hard to score on, very hard to get to his legs. He does, got some little arms, and I think it's hard for him sometimes to get to people's legs. But I think he's more than capable to be a starter and not just be a
Hmm.
starter. I think his goals are to be, still a 3-time national champion. Which I think if you're in that room, that's
Hmm.
the expectation. Um, yeah, I think for sure he's good enough.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's great. Going back to the Cal State Bakersfield, I mean, like I was saying, I think this is the 30th year since they placed third at the NCAs. I went back and looked at that bracket. I mean, Bakersfield sent 9 guys to the Nationals that year. I think that's a record, 9 to Division I. And I'm looking at the team scores. Iowa won it with 122 and a half points. Iowa State was second. They had 78 and a half. Then Cal State Bakersfield had 66 points. They had one finalist and 4 All-Americans overall. Penn State was 1 point behind them. and then Nebraska was fifth with 61 points. And I went back and looked at it. You had Ramstetter, he was in a pigtail. I don't know if they add the pigtail win at the NCAAs that points there.
I'm
I'm
not
not,
sure if they count points the same. I
yeah,
know it changes, and I think there's always a question of fairness, and that's
yeah.
something that we talked about after the high school state tournament. Was
Hmm.
the pigtail rule, because that the team title can come down to who randomly got a pigtail. So I think it might be something where it's similar at the national level, where they count advancement points but not the bonus points. Um,
Hmm.
but you
No,
know,
but they had two guys, everyone won a match that year, everyone on their team. I mean, Kobe Wright was seeded seventh. He took fourth. He placed higher in the seed. Ramstetter was top 12. He was a pigtail 4-2. Um, uh, I think Derek Scott was sixth. He was seeded eighth, and Pascal Deroux was seeded third. He was in the finals, took second, and Stephen Neal. I think that was his first time he was an All-American. Took fourth. He was seeded 10th. So most of the people wrestled above their seeds, which I mean, that's how. I mean, if they had one bad round, they were not even top 10. That's how close that's.
yeah.
And I think that's. I mean, I look at that and that just says how special that is, considering there are just one or two teams on the Western coast, not Western United States, to even be in the top three as a team. That's just incredible what they did there, and I just think it's commendable. I don't know. Are they going to do they do celebrations on this? Do they ever
I
have
mean,
get
we
together?
can celebrate if you want.
We're
Let's
celebrating. No,
celebrate.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just think more people need to understand that, the complexity of what they did, and it's something worth talking about and
Yeah.
inspiring to. And I think it's great. I didn't when it happened. I was like, because I think there was 95 programs in the NCAs at that time. So I just never really. I thought it was cool. It was neat, but I never was doing stats the way I do now. And I look at it and I'm like, whoa, that's one in a million.
Yeah, it sticks
Yeah,
out for
it
sure.
sticks out, and I think that's just commendable. The program and the history, something worth keeping. But no, this is an interesting conversation. I think are they aren't I think there's more wrestling tomorrow that's going to be on TV. The finals, aren't they
Yeah,
wrestling the finals?
so they're gonna finish the semis. And then I'm trying to find the schedule. The schedule, I think they have, let me look. They have finals. When the finals happen. I don't know when the finals happen. I'm trying to find the schedule.
Probably in the morning, I would say something Eastern time. Probably isn't it like 11 o'clock? Don't quote me on
Well,
this. I'd have
you have to do it and where guys, I have the schedule. So yeah, it's 4 to 7:30, and this is Eastern time, Friday, May 16th. They do senior women's and men's freestyle,
Mhm.
semis, all consolation. And then from 12 to 1:30, they do the finals in the third place. And I think they do it at the same time. They're doing women's first, and then they're doing
Okay.
the men's. Um, so that's what tomorrow is going to look like. And that's Eastern time.
Eastern time. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
women start at noon Eastern time, and then men start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time.
very cool. Very cool. No, this is a good conversation. I'm sure we're gonna
Yeah.
have more of it. Um, you know, sort of taking it easy up here in Idaho. I mean, everyone's getting ready for the Fargo Nationals. I
Hmm.
know our guys are training and they're doing a lot of what we call the best on best, where the top kids in the region are training weekly and getting ready. I think our Fargo camp's going to be in maybe the end of when's Fargo, like July, right? So
Um, when is Fargo? Yeah, it's when is Fargo wrestling? It's July 10th through the 19th.
July
So
10th. So yeah, we'll likely have our Fargo camp just before that. So now these are exciting times. So the winners of these will wrestle the number one ranked guys, right? The number one in the
for World Team Trials.
yeah, the final X, right? These
Yeah.
the winners
So
of this will wrestle the final X.
yeah, so the way that it works is, um, if you're in the semis and there's no world team champion or whatever, or US
Hmm.
Open champ, so like if you won the US Open, right, you're in the finals unless there is a returning world medalist that is at that spot. So like 61 kilos has Vito Arujau. So
Hmm.
he can accept an automatically a Final X bid. Kyle Dake is a returning medalist, and he decided to not accept the 74 kilogram bid, so he entered
Oh.
at 86 kilos. So, and since Zahid won 86 kilos at the U.S. Open, Zahid is sitting out at Final X. So that
Hmm.
means at 86 kilos, we have the semis today, and then whoever wins, whether it's Dake, Kekaisen, or Sorochi, Marsteller, the winner of those semifinals, they wrestle tomorrow, and whoever wins that goes to Final X. But if it's something to where I'm trying to think who doesn't have a guy sitting out, maybe like heavies or something
Hmm.
like that. The guy that's sitting at Final X is the U.S. Open winner.
Yeah, isn't
So,
Hendrickson from Oklahoma State Air Force guy? Isn't he? Is he wrestling in this tournament now?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think he's sitting out. I'm pretty sure he won Final X,
Yeah, he might
not
have
Final
won
X, U.S. Open.
U.S. Open.
So
Yeah, I think he won
he's
that.
he
Yeah,
wrestled
these.
Pan Am's though. Man, there was a highlight where he just killed somebody. He just sent him through the floor.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
Chris,
saw that. The guy from Venezuela.
yeah, like just
It
murdered
looked
him.
like a WCW body slam.
That's freestyle, man. And
No.
freestyle is scary. I watched Ladarian Lockett was trying to backguard somebody, and I don't know if he
Oh,
slipped on the edge or
got dumped
what,
on it.
but the guy like grabbed him and then went boom, like just
Oh
straight
yeah.
pile drive his neck.
Yeah.
Which I think the guy ended up getting he got disqualified, and Lockett ended up being okay. He finished the tournament. But man, it's scary. Have you
Now.
ever been spiked before?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Never. I got 5, but I've never been spiked.
Yeah.
That looks like the scariest thing. Like I'm
I
like,
got
okay, like I'm finding the leg and I'm doing something. I'm
I've
not
been
getting
souped
spiked.
one time. I got hit in the eye, and I'm like, I grabbed my hand. The guy went behind me and souped me. It was like, boom! You know?
Yeah, they
And I
didn't
got hit in
stop
the
it.
eye. I couldn't see. But no, I think, I mean, talking about freestyle, I think the rules. There's always improvement to the rules, but I think, in my opinion, this is some of the best wrestling. It's dynamic, the techniques you're seeing at the international level in a competition, just like they have a portal in the international because you got all these guys from Dagestan wrestling for. You got Ismail Mushakayev. He's from
Yeah.
like from Russia, and he's wrestling for Hungary. And you got
Well,
Hudanov.
they're
Who's the
trying
guy?
to put it there's another guy who beat Sadulayev who trains with Sadulayev at his academy. He's
Yeah,
also from Dagestan.
yeah,
But I think the Russian Federation put a rule where it's like you're not allowed to do that anymore. Like
yeah.
if you go off and you represent another country, you can't come back and train with us. Like you're out.
Yeah, yeah, because you see these guys like the guy who Sadulayev's protege. He beat him at the Olympics. He's wrestling for Bahrain, which really there's no wrestling there, but he's probably being promoted there. But then you see him coming back to Dagestan to celebrate. Like
Yeah.
they're probably just representing. And then who's the guy that beat the Penn State guy in the semis at the Olympics? He's Dagestanian, but he's wrestled for Bulgaria.
Um,
Oh, I
I
can't.
know what you're
He's
talking about.
yeah.
The dude's pretty yoked.
So it just
I know what you're
tells
talking
you,
about.
yeah, he's pretty young. Just shows you the state of international wrestling. It's probably tougher than it was 30 years ago because of these guys are wrestling for, the Soviet Union broke up. So now you have all the republics. And then the guys that can't make their team on the republics are representing other European teams. You even have some of our American wrestlers that have, roots from Mexico or Puerto Rico. They're going down and wrestling for them. I mean, who was it? Bravo? Didn't Bravo wrestle for
Bravo
Mexico?
Young,
Yeah,
Austin Gomez,
Gomez.
The Fine Silvers are wrestling
Yeah,
for Israel.
Israel,
Um, Stefan Micic is wrestling for Serbia.
Serbia.
There was another set of brothers that are wrestling for. It's in Italy, but it's
Oh,
like
oh, oh,
Springbok,
yeah. That's
what I'm talking
they're
about.
from Michigan, right?
The Amin brothers,
The
yeah.
Mean Brothers. Yes. Oh man, was it
It's Miles and I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna look it up.
Miles
Well, I'm gonna
Amin?
look up what San Marino is
San
the
Marino.
country.
Yeah, it's right embedded in Italy. Now, I like it. I think it's great. It lets guys, gals, or whoever compete if they can't make the national team because they're proven that it's so deep that there's guys would be sitting out that are good enough to place.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool. I almost kind of want to look into it and be like, hey, my great grandmother was from France. I'm gonna go represent France. That'd
Yeah.
be pretty
Well,
epic.
my family comes from Portugal, and I haven't seen any guys from Portugal. I
There
know
you
they
go.
wrestle, but I don't think Portugal's ever had a world medalist, to be
You could
honest
be the
with you.
first one.
Oh no, dude, I wouldn't make one. I'm 60 years old, dude.
Yeah, we'll
I,
do the masters division. There you go.
yeah, yeah, there you go. What, 30-second rounds?
Uh
What
yeah,
is a round?
I don't know. How long are I think I know there's different divisions within their masters division.
Yeah.
Um I don't know. I know U16 is 2 minutes.
Hmm.
It says in a typical format involves 3 periods with, oh, that's not right. I don't know. I have no idea.
No, something to think about. I've been thinking
Yeah,
about it
there
a
you
lot of
go.
years. That's about it. But no, nonetheless, this has been a great conversation. Enjoy talking wrestling with you. And if you ever get up here to Idaho, show you around. A lot of wrestlers up here from California, up in my area
Yeah,
that you
for
may
sure.
know.
I believe it.
You know Orozco, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, he's up here. He's a firefighter, and you got Bailey and a few other people. Bergstead, I think he used to wrestle for Paradise. He was a state champion back in the 90s. He's one of the coaches up here at I think it's a Ridgeview High School. So you got some transplants and stuff out there. So it's a fun
Yeah.
place.
Maybe someday I'll visit.
Oh,
We'll
it's only
see.
an hour. It's only an hour flight. It's only an hour flight. So, but nonetheless, it's been good and enjoyed talking wrestling with you.
Yeah, same to you, Al. Appreciate you,
Okay.
man.
Yep.